In this SatSoft how-to video, we'll illustrate how to import and display pattern data from external files. This is done using the antenna model called pattern data, while the pattern data are imported with the so-called Pattern Data Manager, a new, powerful tool that we have introduced in SatSoft 3.3. The Pattern Data Manager is used for importing, exporting, and renaming pattern data, while it can also be used for creating new satellites and antennas, as well as for updating existing ones. In this video, we'll illustrate the difference between the Model Properties dialog for an individual antenna and the Pattern Data Manager. We start with a blank SatSoft project where a satellite and a child antenna have been defined. In the specific example considered here, we have a satellite at 120 degrees west. So we start by double-clicking on the satellite light and change its orbital position. To import the pattern data, we first need to open Antenna View, which is done by double-clicking on the antenna in the project tree. This view looks similar to the composite view we just came from, except that the menus change with other buttons that are specific to the antenna view. To import pattern data from an external file, we need to use the so-called Pattern Data Antenna Model. This is the default antenna model in new SatSoft projects, and we verify that it is selected by going to Antenna Model and observe that pattern data is selected. Next, we would like to assign pattern data to this antenna. To this end, we go to Antenna Model Properties, which opens the Pattern Data Model dialog. The Pattern Data Antenna Model is initially in the unassigned state, as indicated in the dialog. Also, since no pattern data have been assigned to this particular antenna, no information about field properties are available at this point. In SatSoft versions prior to SatSoft 3.3, the Model Properties dialog was also an interface for importing pattern data into the SatSoft project. This and many other tasks are now handled by the Pattern Data Manager, while the Model Properties dialog is only used for assigning and unassigning pattern data sets from the individual antennas. Therefore, to make pattern data available to the antenna, we open the Pattern Data Manager by clicking on the shortcut button Open Pattern Data Manager at the bottom of the Model Properties dialog. This opens the Pattern Data Manager, and after dragging it to the side of the Model Properties dialog, it's apparent that the two dialogs are fairly different. On the left, we see the Model Properties dialog, which is specific to the given antenna. On the right, we see the Pattern Data Manager, which is a tool and an overview for pattern data in the entire SatSoft project. That is, it's not tied to the individual antenna objects. We now want to import pattern data from an external file. To do this, we click on Import in the Pattern Data Manager, which brings up a file browser. In this dialog, we select the relevant file and click on Open. This operation imports the pattern data from the external file into the SatSoft project and makes it available in the list in the Pattern Data Manager. The name of this so-called pattern data set is initially the same as the name of the external file. However, once imported, there is no link to the external. Deleting or renaming the pattern data set in the Pattern Data Manager will not do anything to the external file, while moving or deleting the external file will not mean anything for the pattern data set in the SatSoft project. We thus now have pattern data available in the SatSoft project, and we click OK to close the Pattern Data Manager. This brings us back to the Model Properties dialog. As can be seen, the pattern data antenna is still in the unassigned state. That is, importing data using the Pattern Data Manager does not assign imported pattern data to antennas in the SatSoft project. To assign the imported pattern data set to antenna, we click on Change. This brings up a list of already imported pattern data sets. In this case, One such set has been imported, and we highlight it and press OK. Now the assigned pattern points to Conus A. At the bottom, some information about pattern domain limits and sampling is provided. We click OK in the dialog, and select contours of the imported pattern data sets are displayed on the map. Antennas by default point right to the sub-satellite point, which is why the pattern initially covers the oceans. In SatSoft, an orientation of the antenna with respect to the satellite is controlled with the bore side. In this case, where the pattern should cover the US, we would like to change the orientation of the antenna to achieve this. And to this end, we right-click on the map, we select bore side with coordinates. This opens the antenna bore side dialog, where bore side can be set using coordinates. In this case, azimuth should be set to 1.03, while elevation should be set to 5.92. We click OK in the dialog, and the pattern is immediately repositioned accordingly. Thanks for watching this SatSoft how-to video.